Comments. All right, we're going to get started in just a second to break down the Florida Gators' newest commitment, Peyton Joseph. So hang tight, everybody. Wait just a few more seconds, and then we will get rolling. All right, Keith Niebuhr with Gators Online to talk about the Florida Gators' newest commitment. A big one came Sunday afternoon in Warner Robins, Georgia, as Peyton Joseph, four-star offensive lineman Peyton Joseph of Warner Robins, Georgia's Houston County High School, has committed to the Florida Gators. It is pronounced Houston, not Houston. Those in Georgia will correct you if you're wrong, but it's a big pickup for the Florida Gators, and let's get into all the reasons why. First of all, Peyton Joseph is, we have him listed at 6'3", 285. I think we're a little bit behind it on three. Last check, he was in the 6'4", 300-pound range. He is also, he's a four-star, consensus four-star recruit. The number 5 interior offensive lineman in the country means he could be a guard or a center at the next level. Number 18 recruit in the state of Georgia, which is always elite, always incredibly strong state. And so you want to do well in Georgia. Florida has 4 commitments. We'll get into a little bit of this in a few minutes, but 4 commitments for the class of 2025. 2 of them are from the state of Georgia. Nationally, for the On3 industry rankings, Peyton Joseph checks in as the number 123 overall recruit. His finalists were Florida, Florida State, Georgia Tech, LSU, Michigan, Miami, Penn State, Tennessee. Really came down to Florida, Florida State, Georgia Tech. I think Florida and Georgia Tech probably pushed the hardest for him. Noteworthy, Peyton Joseph actually started his high school career at Peach Valley High School, not far from Warner Robins, but on the west side of I-75. And if you're a diehard Gator, you probably know a couple guys' names who went to that school. One, well, they both played receiver. One being Jaquez Kwesi Green, and the other being DeMarcus Robinson. So Florida has had some good success in that region. And so obviously a big pickup for the Florida Gators. Now, what this does now for the class rankings is interesting too, because Florida is now up to 10th in the 2025 class rankings. You say, oh, it doesn't really matter till signing day. That's true, but you'd like to, throughout the course of the year, put together a good group of commits and then hang on for dear life, obviously. Now, there was some question as to whether Florida could pick up a lot of quality commitments, with Billy Napier being 11-14 in 2 seasons, coming off a 5-7 year. But so far, so good. And Florida has 4 commitments. And who are they? Well, we know one of them, 4-star offensive lineman Peyton Joseph, committed today. 4-star defensive end / edge Jalen Wiggins of Tallahassee Rickards. And surprisingly, Florida's done very well historically in Tallahassee. They've maybe not gotten a ton of guys, but the guys they've gotten in Tallahassee have hit. Will White, Brad Culpepper, Taylor Jacobs, Kevin Carter's. So Jack Youngblood from that area as well, one of only 2 former Florida Gators in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So Jalen Wiggins, the highest ranked of the 2025 commitments for the Florida Gators. Then you have 4-star running back Waltez Clark from Tampa Plant, another school that's been good to Florida historically across multiple sports. And finally, a 4-star guy, if I didn't mention that. And finally, you have another player from Georgia, kind of under the radar receiver, Josiah Abdullah from Woodward Academy. Now, there's a Florida Gators tie to that program as well, a couple of them, in fact. Well, Miles Graham, the standout 4-star linebacker who committed and signed with Florida in the past cycle, he started at Woodward Academy. And who is Woodward Academy's coach? Former Florida Gator offensive lineman John Hunt, who played for the Gators back in the early 80s when they were making that first a big run of the modern era, kind of getting out of the doldrums that we see them in now. So 4 solid commitments for Florida in the 2025 class. They already have the number 10 class rank. So We're going to go over a couple more things, 5 things I like about Peyton Joseph, and then I'm going to give you a couple of names of some guys who could maybe be next to commit. So what do I like about Peyton Joseph, the 4-star offensive line commit? And I'm going to take some questions from you all at the end as well. So Lucas, Patrick, thanks for hanging in there. So Peyton Joseph, size and athleticism. I mentioned earlier, at last check, he was in that 6'4", 300-pound range. Very stout power base. That means lower body. He's wide, all right? Big, thick legs, big, thick calves and ankles. When you have big ankles, that means you're going to be an inside guy. That makes him ideal to play guard or center in the SEC. He's strong and he's powerful and he has a big punch. He also has soft and quick feet. He can move fairly well for a guy his size. Now, one thing you also have to like about Peyton Joseph is he's an outstanding shot putter. And you like guys that are multiple sport guys because they're not just entirely focused on one sport, which means their ceiling is probably down the road. But also the fact that he does the shot put adds to his overall body strength. And to be a great shot putter, you've really got to have unbelievable upper body strength. So I mentioned his lower body strength earlier. Well, you can add to this that he also has a stout upper body as well. So very strong guy. Now he plays a position of need. Everybody talks about Florida needing tackles. I get it. They need tackles. They need elite tackles. We haven't seen them sign too many of them. But a tackle is a tackle is a tackle. That's all they play. A guard, center can play one of 3 spots, and that gives them a little bit of added value, obviously. Now, Florida, we know, is a dynamic running team, loves to run the football inside. So you need strong, powerful, and big guards and centers who can pull. And he's a guy that can do that. He can really move and get to that next level and create openings for the Florida running backs. Also, the state of Georgia, as it is every year, is loaded in the 2025 class. As I mentioned earlier, Florida already has 2 commitments from the Peach State for 2025. That is a very good start. You could see a lot of commitments come from these 2 states this year. I know, okay, Keith, big deal. We get it. They always sign guys from Florida and Georgia. But again, this year, we think that Florida potentially could go strong in the state of Georgia. A lot of good players up there. Now, also, Peyton Joseph comes from one of the best football areas in the South. I mentioned earlier, he's at Houston County in Warner Robins, right near that Buc-ee's, right off I-75 on the east side. Started his career on the west side at Peach County in the great city of Fort Valley, Georgia. And in that area, some of the guys that have come from there, I mentioned Jaquez Green and DeMarcus Robinson, 2 talented receivers that played at Peach County. Greg Lloyd, remember him? Dominant defensive player at linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 90s, all-pro multiple times and many Pro Bowls as well. He went to Peach County. He may have even played at Fort Valley State right there, but an unbelievable player. Roquan Smith, one of the top linebackers in pro football. And so, he went to, he's from Montezuma, Georgia. I can't, the name of the school is slipping my memory, but he's from that region. And then, many guys historically from the Warner Robins, Macon area. And recently, one of the bigger names from Houston County, same school, they call it HOCO, Jake Fromm. I know you hate him, but the Georgia Bulldog quarterback, but he played at HOCO. So basically why that's important is because you're playing with talented people in practice and on Friday nights, and you're playing against talented people on Friday nights. They used to call one of those regions there the region of doom. The competition was so tough from Macon to Valdosta. So outstanding players. Peyton Joseph is going to get tested each and every Friday night this fall. That's good. His quarterback, another thing you need to like about Peyton Joseph, his quarterback at HOCO, Houston County, is a guy named Antoine Hill. Well, in the 2025 class, it seems like Florida's focused on 2 or 3 quarterbacks, one of them being Ryan Montgomery of Ohio, who could potentially have a commitment in the next several weeks. South Carolina, the teams to watch there. But another quarterback very much in the mix, and we don't know who's number 1 on the board. That's one thing if you're a school, you do not want getting out who your number 1 quarterback is unless you know you're getting him or it's a no-brainer number 1, Tim Tebow, DJ Lagway. You don't want that out there because you don't want to offend someone. So you have to really make 4 or 5 guys feel like they're the guy. All right? Antoine Hill is one of the guys, and he is the quarterback at HOCO where Peyton Joseph, and I should point out, even though he's a guard center for college, plays left and right tackle. So he's getting that tackle experience. Says a lot about his footwork. All right, says a lot about his footwork. that he is going to, a guy that's going to be a guard center in college, can play tackle and pass pro at that level. A very good high school program. But Antoine Hill is his quarterback. They're very good friends. Now, they are committed to going to the best school for each of them individually. One's not going to follow the other. But if you're the Florida Gators and Antoine Hill is a guy you put the foot on the gas to land, it will not hurt you to have Peyton Joseph in your corner. So that potentially could be significant there. Early start in Gainesville. Another thing to like about Peyton Joseph, and we documented this at Gators Online, which I hope you will go check out. We've always had that great $1 for 1 month intro. I got to get the plug in there. Early start in Gainesville for Peyton Joseph. He's going to graduate from HOCO next December. That means if Florida gets to a bowl game, and I mean, you'd like to see him get to a bowl game for God's sakes. If Florida gets to a bowl game, he would be able to then go through bowl practices. You can't really hit, but you can wear the jersey and you can be in the meetings and you can do all that stuff. It's a hell of a learning experience for a young guy. Then he will enroll at Florida in January. For an offensive lineman, why is this important? Well, obviously, getting in the system, learning the playbook, I get all that stuff. But things you don't think about. Offensive linemen, 16, 17, 18 years old, they have baby fat. Not many of those guys get to college without a good deal of baby fat. And Peyton Joseph has some of that. You get him in the weight training and strength and conditioning program and the nutrition, all that stuff goes together. He'll be eating the best he's ever eaten, the healthiest he's probably ever eaten, and he will be in that weight program. So this is a guy who could have a transformative body physical experience within just a few months. And then, of course, he gets to take part in spring practice. And, he's a guy that you think probably, like most offensive linemen, won't play for a couple of years, but you never know. Sometimes these guys get out in spring practice and they surprise the heck out of you with their mental acuity, with their football, just general knowledge. With maybe they're stronger than you think. Maybe they're quicker than you realize. Maybe a couple guys get hurt at that position and he gets a shot and does well. So it's important. He will graduate early and he will be there in the spring. So significant pickup for the Florida Gators with Peyton Joseph. Now, we're covering a lot here. Who could be next to commit? And I've followed or put some of this up on at Gators Online as well. And by the way, if you like what we're doing here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend. We're really going to try to grow this YouTube channel in the next year. We'll see how that goes. You may get sick and tired of us if you haven't already. But who can be next to commit? Well, to me, we mentioned Ryan Montgomery earlier, the four-star quarterback from Ohio. Florida and South Carolina and Georgia are really the main teams. But Georgia's working on some other guys too, including a kid out of Georgia that's committed to Southern California. They're probably going to wait for him. If Ryan Montgomery wants to commit with his current time frame, which seems to be in the relatively near future, that probably, I don't want to say eliminates Georgia, but it's going to make it less likely that he ends up at Georgia, which then by default leaves Florida and South Carolina. Both these schools are recruiting him extremely hard. He's very close with both staffs. He's had great visits to both schools, fits in with the programs, fits in on the college campuses in those towns as well. So right now it's coin toss. All right. It is a coin toss. Here's his quote about Florida from his recent visit, which was the first week in February. From Ryan Montgomery, four-star quarterback. I really like how Coach Napier approaches things. I like his process and the way he does things at Florida. How he is trying to do things and change the culture is unique to me. Florida is a really cool place. I like the way they treat me. The staff has really prioritized me since they started recruiting me. Now, that last part's important because we know South Carolina has really prioritized him. And he's probably, we say, you don't always know who the number one guy is. We think he probably is the definitive number one target at quarterback for South Carolina. So the fact that Florida's in the hunt is significant. Right now, we think it's a coin toss. But if he picks Florida, great. Fantastic player. Also an outstanding basketball player, not as a college Florida recruit type, but just as a guy that's a multi-sport standout at his high school. If he picks Florida, fantastic. If he doesn't, then you're just moving on to other guys. You're working on other guys, i.e. Antoine Hill. So that's why you continually recruit multiple players at one time. But number one guy on my list is a kid for who could be the next Florida Gators commitment. I'm getting all these messages here. Hilton Drake Stubbs. Name is Hilton Stubbs, goes by the nickname Drake. Four-star safety from that great program, Mandarin High School in Jacksonville. I saw them play last year in the mud. The mud was like this, and this dude had a diving interception on a ball that looked like nobody could get anywhere near. He's the number 50 recruit nationally and the number 4 safety in the country, Hilton Stubbs. Again, notable contenders: Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Miami, and Tennessee, and really just about everybody else. Now, right now, the On3 recruiting prediction machine favorite is Florida for Hilton Stubbs. Most view the Gators as the clear favorite. In fact, in multiple interviews with Gators Online, just in the last couple of months, he has said Florida is his number one. Now, when could he announce a commitment? First, he wants to take some spring visits. He could potentially have a decision this spring. He's told me it could happen in the next few months. He's told my coworker, Corey Bender, could happen this spring. But also on the flip side of that, Chad Simmons of On3, every Gator fan's favorite reporter, has said, hey, it might not happen until the summer. But right now, Florida is the clear-cut favorite to land him. So back to Peyton Joseph. Tell me what you think about this commitment. I love it. If you're Florida, you've got an offensive lineman committed, and it's only late February. You're probably going to have to add a handful. It's crucial that you reload up front every cycle. That's one area, offensive and defensive line, where you better not have a year where you only take 1 or 2 guys, or you will find yourself in a hole that is difficult to dig out of. All right, Lucas says, let's freaking go. What's up, Keith? Lucas, my man, thanks for stopping by. Patrick says Florida's doing better without Stapleton, Darnell Stapleton. Now, here's one thing you should know. Obviously, Florida had 2 offensive line coaches up until very recently. Darnell Stapleton, one of the 2, has left for the Washington Commanders of the NFL. So people asked on the board, on the message board at Gators Online, how would this impact Peyton Joseph's recruitment? It's going to be different for different kids, but in this particular recruitment, Rob Sale, who is Florida's lone remaining offensive line coach, was always the lead dog in this recruitment. He handled it from the get-go. These 2, Peyton Joseph and Rob Sale, are like this. And so it really was a non-factor in this recruitment, Darnell Stapleton's exit from Florida. So credit to Rob Sale, who I know people like to go after, but he did pretty well on this one. All right, let's see. Lucas says, how many OL will we take? We don't have an exact number. So much, Lucas, is going to depend on who plays well this year. If somebody looks bad in the spring, the coaching staff may already say, all right, well, we know this guy ain't going to be back next year. So that may open up one spot. I always start with the premise. It's always going to be in that 4 to 6 range. I mean, let's be honest. Hey, sometimes you got to go higher. Rarely do you go lower. So I would just start with that, and we'll go from there. All right, David says, what's the rumor from Gators HQ regarding the 10th on-the-field coaching spot? Not a lot has gotten out since Stapleton left. Obviously with 2 offensive line coaches, that meant that like a guy like Ryan O'Hara, for example, and remember, I'm the recruiting guy, but he was an offensive analyst who coached the quarterbacks or coaches the quarterbacks. He is a de facto, he is a coach. I mean, he's a coach. He just can't be on the field technically, but he is the QB coach for all intents and purposes. So that's, that's a possibility. Maybe we're not hearing much. I'm just going to say, this is just me, spitballing here, but it would seem like making Ryan O'Hara an on-the-field assistant could potentially be a way to go as the QB coach. You could still say, hey, I like if you're Billy Napier, I like the 2 offensive line coach system. Now, fans would say, well, wait a second. We didn't get a lot of recruits, elite guys with this system, but, and maybe that's true, but there's also unknown variables. Did NIL hurt them? I mean, look, I don't know, but I know that Darnell Stapleton was popular with a lot of recruits we talked to. The offensive line wasn't great last year, was significantly better the year before. But again, that's sometimes what you have and what you don't have. I mean, so there's all these variables. And if you're Billy Napier, you've got to basically go down your checklist of things and then rank them in terms of importance. Do I need a recruiter? Do I need a coach? Do I need a guy that's a leader in the locker room? What do I need? And can I get by with one offensive line coach? Of course, he knows he can, but do I want to get by with one? So maybe you look. I mean, there's different ways he could go, but those would seem like the most most realistic. Hey, continue to have 2 offensive line coaches, and I'm talking in circles here, or maybe you say I need a QB coach, even though he's essentially doing that anyway. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll see. Patrick says, hit the like button for Keith. I appreciate it, Patrick. Anthony says, what's up, Keith? Would love to have you on our podcast. Anthony, hit me up anytime on Twitter or whatnot. Love to do those things. I think that's it, but let's just talk about Peyton Joseph a little bit more. We'll go back to this. And Again, big commitment for the Florida Gators. Number 4 in the class of 2025 for Florida, 2 from the state of Florida, 2 from the state of Georgia. Number 123 overall player in the country. Where is it? I'm trying to find it. He is number 5 among inside offensive linemen, number 26 in the Peach State. You get a top 75 player in Georgia, there's a chance he's going to play. Look, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I don't want to say that. All pro teams, NFL starting lineups are littered with guys that weren't even top 50 recruits in the state of Georgia. It is such a talented state, much like Florida. You're probably going to find better offensive linemen in Georgia than you do in Florida, though. Florida's not a great offensive line state. Florida's not an unbelievable defensive line state. So you're going to do well in Georgia. So I think you're going to need to do well in Georgia historically. And, it's funny because the further south in Georgia you go, Florida hasn't done great. You don't see guys from Valdosta lining up to play at Florida. But that middle area from, Crisp County, which is Cordele. You guys all stopped at the Cordele exit, I'm sure. Tift, Peach County, Warner Robins. So in that area, Florida has gotten some pretty good players historically through the years. And this is another good one. Peyton Joseph is a Gator. Let's see if there's any more questions. Patrick says, do you think the Gators are recruiting well despite the hot seat talk of Billy? Well, look, you got 4 commitments right now. 3 of them are 4 stars. One of them is a top 100 national recruit. That's Jalen Wiggins, the edge from Tallahassee. You've got the number 10 class in the country. I don't know if there's going to be just this, avalanche of commitments, but you chip away, and then you hope you have a good season. Because let's face it, Florida's going to need to have a good season. So far, so good. In position, in a favorable spot with some elite players, one of them being Hilton Drake Stubbs. You're trying to flip guys like Malik Autry, the defensive lineman from Auburn. Your quarterback position, you're in the mix with 3 4-star guys. And, let's see, running back, you've already got 1 guy committed. Tight end, you're in the mix with a ton of guys. Receiver, you've got 1 guy committed, and you seem to be in the ball game with multiple guys. Defensive line, edge, you've got a guy committed in Jalen Wiggins. That's a standout player, top 100 national recruit. Linebacker, that's going to be interesting. You've got a new linebackers coach in Ron Robertson, Patrick Bateman, Patrick Bateman is American Psycho. I love that movie. But Jay Bateman, the former linebackers coach, not Patrick Bateman, but Jay Bateman was very good at connecting with recruits all across the landscape in this country and had done such a great job last cycle landing Ernest Graham's son, Miles Graham, the 4-star linebacker, and then also Aaron Childs out of Maryland, an unbelievable talent at linebacker as well. So we don't know what is Ron Roberts going to do. We don't know who his main targets are. That's still kind of emerging. We're going to see who visits Florida come March, April for spring practice. That will be kind of telling. And then obviously who then officially visits in June. Secondary, Will Harris seems to be off to a good spot. We think Florida leads with 2 big targets at defensive back. One of them, and we mentioned earlier, Hilton Stubbs out of Jacksonville, Florida. Another, Chris McCorkle, who's coming off a season, sorry, my computer's shaking, at Sarasota Cardinal Mooney, where he was teammates with Teddy Foster, Florida's 2024 cornerback signing. Well, Chris McCorkle had an outstanding junior season, 8 or 9 interceptions. Just visited Florida State recently. We hear that went great, but the word coming out of that from people close to him is that Florida probably is still the team to beat. So overall, coming together slowly but surely. But again, 4 commitments. I think they're, correct me if I'm wrong, they're either at the same pace or even ahead of where they were at this time last year. So, so far, so good for the Florida Gators. But look, ultimately, you're going to have to go out and win games. And I don't think anybody doubts that. Your class, if you lose, it takes hits, right? And you obviously, it could impact the stability and the future of Billy Napier. Not could, it will at Florida. And when Florida lost those games last year, now there's other factors to NIL and things of that nature. But when Florida kind of took a nosedive at the end of the last season, that's really when the class, which was at one time number 3, fell way outside the top 10. And so you've got to guard against that. So we'll see. When Florida was winning early in the season, the class looked good. Florida started losing. The class lost some key pieces. But today, Sunday, February 18th, is all about the commitment of 4-star offensive lineman Peyton Joseph, Warner Robins, Georgia. Love that Buc-ee's there, man. I'll tell you, I've taken naps there. I've eaten there. I've written stories there. It, we need a few more of those in Florida, let's be honest. But I appreciate everybody stopping by. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Please feel free to leave a comment and go to gatorsonline.com right now. Again, $1 for 1 month. Let me see if I can find that banner. There you go. Gators Online, $1 for 1 month. Check it out. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. We'll do it again soon. Take care. And that's it. Take care, everybody. See you, man.